Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Issues of the Heart podcast. I'm your host, Brother Kobe.
And I'm Rogers.
Yeah, I want to kind of talk about something. I know that a lot of people, and I'm eating something. Um, I know that a lot of people kind of have this idea of, and it's this thought that, it's my life. I can live my own life. I can make my own decisions. I'm not harming anybody. I'm not doing anything to anybody. So you can't tell me how to live my life. And so indeed, your life, live it. However, remember, we have been purchased by the blood of Jesus, not just by creation, but by redemption. But however, if you feel like another person can't tell you how to live your life, you go live it. But we have to understand this and get past this thought. It's the thought that the choices that I make and the things that I do, I'm accountable for. I'm not accountable for anybody else. And what they maybe choose to do in the life that I live only affects me. We want to look at this because is this a true statement, right? In the book of Romans, chapter 14, uh, I remember this scripture kind of sticking out to me years ago, and it's been like in my mind ever since. It says this: "For none of us lives to himself, and no man dies to himself." So basically, what the Bible is telling us that we don't live unto ourselves. In other words, the life that we live doesn't just affect us. So we may think that what I do, hey, it just affects me. It doesn't affect anybody else. Nobody should be troubled by the decisions that I make. I have to bear the responsibility for whatever choices I make, which is true indeed. However, the Bible says, no, 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 no. The choices that you make doesn't just affect you. Now, just think about this. What if I say I want to be a rapist? Is that choice just affecting me, or is it affecting somebody else? If I say I want to be a thief, a career criminal, is that choice just affecting me, or is it going to affect someone else? What I choose to do, be it good or bad, is not just going to affect me. I remember reading something in the book of Job that's very interesting. And this always I was like, wow. When I looked at this, I was like, this is interesting. This is what it says in Job 35, beginning in verse 6. It says, if you sin, what do you do against him? Meaning God. Or if your transgressions be multiplied, what do you against him? Meaning God. If you be righteous, what did you give to him? Meaning God. Or what receives he of your hand if you do good? Then he says this, verse 8, your wickedness may hurt a man as you are, and your righteousness may profit the Son of Man. He said that if you do wickedness, what you doing to God? If you do righteous and you do good, what is he receiving at your hand? He said, if you do wickedness, you harm man. If you do righteous, if you do good, yes, you benefit your fellow man. In other words, whether we do good or whether we do bad, we affect other people. If you choose to go and do good things, feed people, help people, in different ways, yes, your righteousness affects somebody else. Somebody's benefiting from you doing good. Somebody's being uplifted, encouraged, helped, strengthened by, think about the parable of the Good Samaritan. Think about the people that decide to pass him by. That act of, if they passed him by and there was nobody left to help this man, then this man could die based on them just be like, I'm out of my own business. Like, I ain't finna, inconvenience myself for this person over here that's hurting. If nobody else comes past, then that person could potentially die because they wanted to, they didn't want to inconvenience themselves. They don't want him to be a bother to them. However, the person that decided that they wanted to stop and help, think about how their righteousness, their goodness benefited that person. And so the choices that we make Yes, it doesn't. And think about the people that put that man in that position. Them doing that wickedness put this man in that position, right? So their wickedness affected this man. So if I decide that I want to do good in life, then think about all the people that I'm helping, I'm blessing, that it will be a benefit to. However, if I decide that I'm going to do wickedness, that I'm going to do evil, think about all the people that affects and that hurts if I decide that I'm just going to do bad. And so misery loves company. And so whenever you decide to, and listen, when people decide to do evil, people just don't want to just do evil by themselves. They want to try to recruit people to do evil with, right? And that evilness that they're going to do is going to affect and harm someone else. Same way for righteousness. If you decide to do righteousness, you're probably not just going to do right all by yourself. You're probably going to recruit people to help you go out and try to be good in society and affect other people. So this whole thought of, hey, my life, my choices, and I only affect me, simply not true.
Poet John Donne said, "No man is an island to himself. Every man is a part of the continent." Ultimately, what affects or affects one indirectly affects all men, or what affects one man directly affects all men indirectly. So it's a microcosm. When we're woven together into the fabric of humanity, the fabric of brotherhood. The Bible tells us in the book of Acts that we're all made of one blood, one seed. So we all come back again into the web that we're tied back into. So there is a distinction that is there of individual responsibility, individual accountability, and yet there's this ripple effect that speeds through society as well. And we can see clear examples from the impact of one person's choice, be a good choice, be it a bad choice, and the ramifications of it. And so it's a ploy, because when it's mostly presented, people are saying this as, hey, I can do whatever I want to do. And it's really more of a selfish, a self-serving idea that is there. Even with the pandemic that we're in, I mean, a lot of people are like, well, hey, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. I don't care what these people think, So that's okay. That's cool if you think that. I shouldn't say that's cool, but hey, I can respect your decision if you think that. But there's an impact that is there, and so even with it, it's like, okay, well, hey, there's certain people that are impacted, that are going to be maybe impacted more. So we must, in all respects, and this is not about COVID or anything in that respect, but just the general principle is that, hey, am I my brother's keeper is really what it boils down to. And that takes us back to Genesis. You can read Genesis chapter 4. Cain and Abel is the story that takes place where essentially Cain rises up and murders his own brother. He kills him. And when God comes back to be able to talk to him, it's like, hey, where's your brother? Where's your brother? What's going on? And so then Cain responds back, well, I don't know. It's not my brother's keeper. I don't know where his dude is. That's on him. Not that we become, snitches or tattletales and watching behind each other and everything the person does. But there is that level of accountability that is given, that is there, the way that God designed us, the way that God created us. And it's particularly known, within that sphere, the sphere of influence that we have. And so not directly to somebody who may not know us per se, but within that little circle of folks that we do know, that we do have a relationship, that we are acquainted with, then we'll be able to really meaningfully and positively be able to impact them. Because at the end of the day, yes, we are individual creatures, but we are also our brother's keepers, meaning that we have an accountability to be there, to hold someone accountable, to hold someone responsible by the choices that we make. Because you gave the examples that are there. And I know some people say, well, you know what? Yeah, well, who's going to go out and murder somebody? Who's going to go out and do this and so forth? And so people like to think it too, well, what's wrong if I just want to get high? No, I'm just smoking my own weed. I ain't bothering you. You ain't got to smoke it. You ain't got to drink it. You ain't got to, if I want to eat this way. And they think like that. And that would be true if there's an impact. But again, it's not just that impact. So I decide that I'm going to go out and I just want to smoke and I just want to drink. This is my personal choice. But to show you how it impacts others, if you are, you're married, you have kids, or whatever situation is, if you're sick and you can't go out to work, well, guess what? Those bills still come and due. So like, okay, well, I'm high, so I don't get arrested for driving drunk. So now I'm in jail. So, okay, bills come and due. So yeah, you went out to the slot machines, gambled away all the money. Kids don't have nothing to eat. They weren't pulling the slot machine, putting the quarters in. Okay. But this was your choice, your decision that you made, but your decision it now has this implication upon them. So now they're at home, they're hungry. Okay, you drunk up all the money on buying beer. They didn't buy the beer, but now they're hungry. They're impacted by it. And so this is a responsibility that is there. There was not their choice. It was your choice. It was my choice, my decision, but they're impacted by our decisions. So we have to frame it in its true context, that there are people that are impacted by our decisions. And so the book of Habakkuk, it says, woe to him that giveth his neighbor drink. In the sense again of giving strong drink, wine, alcohol, so forth, the impact that it has that trickles down the road. So yeah, people are responsible, and so consider even that maybe I say, well, I'm just the only one that's smoking. If I want to get to smoke, that's on me. If I want to do drugs or whatever, that's on me. Well, that even if a worst case scenario, you do illegal drugs, you die. It ain't just been all on you. Think about the family. Your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, those people that will love you and that will miss you by the choice that you made regrettably. Or let's say you do something then and you survive it, but now because I did it, through my poor choices, now I may impact them. Now I may need them to be able to do something to be able to assist me, and so forth. I gambled away all the money. Now I'm calling you, hey bro, can you let me borrow some money? So it's not an isolated instance, and we try to see it just as a vacuum. But then when that problem hits, you don't keep it in the vacuum. I don't keep it in the vacuum. I'm calling somebody up. Hey, can you let me borrow some money? Hey, can you bail me up out of jail? Can you, hey, do this for me? My car got impounded. Can you take me over here and so forth? So now my problem, my choice, my decision that I was so big to boast about. Now I'm coming to you and I'm impacting you and deciding, hey, can you do something to be able to assist me? Okay, that's the negative aspect of it that is there. And so the Bible in the book of Ecclesiastes, he says, look, one sinner can destroy much good. So the impact and the influence of it. But when we look at the same extent in terms of righteousness and kingdom building and doing things to be able to honor God and to exalt him, then we can be able to bring those things over into a positive influence and a positive display. Hey, well, now we'll be able to speak out of the blessing of God. And so it's a fragrance then that goes with us. And so it's a savor of life unto life to all those that we come into contact with, those whom we're able to bless. And so when you look in the Bible, people were blessed simply because of the influence of the righteous that were around them. The people of Sodom and Gomorrah, they were blessed even in their wickedness because of the influence of Lot being around them. And so that influence is one that is able to emanate and to bring forth light, to be able to dispel darkness. But we certainly got to move beyond just the notion that whatever I do, I'm just me, myself, and I, because that sounds good, but in real life, it just doesn't work like that. Unless you're a hermit somewhere and you're living by yourself, then that statement will probably be true. But unless you're a hermit and you're living by yourself somewhere isolated, removed from everybody and whatnot, then that statement is not true, because it will impact, it will have a ripple effect upon everybody else. And that shows, again, the value that is there for each one of us individually, as formed and made in the image of God, that God loves us, that you are unique, that you're valuable, you're of great worth in his kingdom, and great worth in his family, and even great worth on earth. And you may be a part of a situation where people may not recognize that, they may not appreciate that, they may not know it, and you may think, well, even worst case, well, shoot, if I ain't around, who's gonna miss me? Who's gonna care? It's like, okay, and you can entertain that notion and those thoughts, but no, again, you are part of the family of God by creation, and his also by redemption. And so when we look at all these texts, they again remind us of the role and the impact that is there. Last text I'll share back is in Joshua chapter 7. It's the story of Achan. And Achan went in and he stole basically a garment and some other trinkets when the Israelites went in to conquer, when they went in to conquer Jericho. And it was, again, his choice, his decision that he did, his sin. However, when he came back out, it had dire consequences upon the entire nation. His own choices, it influenced and it affected other people. So when they went out to battle again the next time, the blessing of God had been withdrawn, not because everybody did something wrong, but simply because of Achan's choices, Achan's decisions that he made. And so it brought retribution down upon the nation because of his choice. And so it was a warning then that we can't placate sin, we can't cover sin up, that it has disastrous consequences. And so it needs to be searched out. It needs to be found, needs to be rooted out so that the blessing of God may rest upon us. Now, he may have reasoned, well, it's just me, nobody else. It's just me doing this. Nobody's involved in this and telling anybody else. But again, sin is mobile. Doesn't just limit itself to just one person and one action. It carries over in the same way that righteousness, it doesn't limit itself to one person. It has a permeating influence. It can carry over and impact multiple people for good.
Yeah, well, you took a couple of my things. I was going to use the whole Cain and Abel.
I love a little bit on the bone.
But in essence, people that say that I'm living unto myself are basically saying that I'm my brother's keeper. And when we look at this, though, I think what people fail to realize is that every single person, the talent that God has given everybody is influence. Everybody has influence. And so, like, this is used, for example, is, you say, like, hey, you ain't a rapist, you ain't out murdering, you're not doing some criminal act, right? And you may be doing something simple. And again, we're not just focusing on the quote unquote bad per se, it could be good, but whatever you choose to do, somebody's looking at you and they're going to be influenced by what you do. If you do something bad, somebody can be influenced by that. If you do something good, people can be influenced in that way. So everybody has somebody that looks up to them, or that they see you doing. You don't have to be a celebrity, somebody that's out here widely known and famous for people to follow. You could be the regular Joe. I remember growing up, and there was this incident where, because I always wanted to be, my mama kind of, she raised us in church and things of that nature. And outside of that, I was always into sports. So I looked up to like sports players. But I remember it was this incident in the hood where my friend got his bike stolen, and he went back and he told his brother. Now his brother was he was older than us. Clearly, he was in his late teens, gang member, and so he was like, "I'm going to get my brother bike back." He didn't run to his gang to be like, "Hey, let's gather up and let's go to this other opposing neighborhood to get my brother bike back." He told his brother, like, "Come on, let's go. We're finna go get this bike." And so he didn't invite us, but we followed. So we followed behind him, and we just seeing him just walk through traffic. It seemed like cars just stopping. He had obeyed under the traffic, so we just behind him watching. So, but what he did, he had this big old sword that he had, and he walked into an opposing neighborhood, different gang, and they're like, "Yeah, right there." And so he pulled the sword out, bow, hit the dude with the sword. "Go get my brother bike." And the dude went, got the bike and brought it back. And we like walked out the hood. And that moment in my mind was like, yeah, I want to be like that dude. So again, he wasn't trying to be like, follow me, be as I am. However, us as kids watching that, for me, I was like, whoa, that was some stuff. So at that point, you begin to idolize now gang members. And so now you might be somewhat, in your mind, like, yo, I might, be a part of that. I want to be a part of that. And so you might join later on in life. And so again, when you start looking at choices that people make, everybody has an influence, whether it's good or bad. And we have to recognize that upon ourselves. So, and I remember this, and my cousin said this to me, amongst like the younger generations, I was the first one that started smoking weed. I started smoking weed. Of course, my cousin, he started doing it. Next thing you know, some of our littler cousins, as they got a little bit older, they start smoking. Now their kids are smoking. As I think about it, some of the older adults, like the uncles and stuff that we had, they used to smoke, and everybody was smoking around us. So they don't say here smoke, but by you beholding and seeing them do it, all of a sudden it's in your mind now. And now, next thing you know, we used to, some of the older adults used to sometimes, tell us, go get the cigarette, go light it on the stove and bring it back. Sometimes, you go light the cigarette, kind of try to take a puff, see what it's like before you go give it to them, and so So if things like that happen. And so one of the things we recognize, and you brought up like the drunk driver, why are people so upset about people driving impaired, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs or whatever? It's not that they just gonna crash and it just affect them. They're most people that get into car accidents, they're hitting other people, innocent people, and the majority of the time, the people that are really dying and getting injured, it's not the person that was drunk, but the person that they hit. And so you may say, hey, man, I'm just drinking and just having a little smoke or whatever, but you drive impaired, but that can affect and harm other people. I want to read this text. I don't know if you have a last word you want to say, but I want to read this text and make a brief comment. The Bible talks about that they may rest from their labors and their works do follow them. Now we know what we normally use that as, that even after you go off the scene, after you pass, your influence doesn't die just because you did. Look at the likes of Tupac and Elvis, Michael Jackson, all these people, famous people, different people who have died. And they don't have to be famous people, but people who have died, yet their works, the influence that they have, people still follow that. They're still influencing people after they've gone on. The works that they've done, the words that they've said still have a big impact on other people. So, but your works do follow, and people can still follow that. And going back to the situation where what you do just doesn't affect you, not even in a negative sense. I'm gonna tell this story. My dad, he has passed. He's off the scene. God rest his soul. But I'm telling this story. So one day, I'm in class, and one of the students is like, he asked me, hey, Kobe, what's your dad's name? And I'm looking like, why is you asking me about my dad's name? I'm like, man, whatever. So then he turns around, he said, is your dad name Felix Cobb? And I'm looking like, how he know my dad's name? So he over there giggling and stuff like that. And I'm like, bro, what you laughing at? So he shows me, he hands me this paper, and I read this paper, and it says Felix Cobb gets in an accident 2:30 or something in the morning. I had no idea. So I'm reading this in the local paper. And it's talking about the car accident that he had because he was drunk driving. He sideswiped some cars and totaled his car, but he hit these other cars. Now think about how he affected those people. Now he didn't kill anybody, but he sideswiped some cars. But I'm in school getting laughed at because they put this in the paper. So I go home, I'm steaming. I'm like, bro, what in the world happened? I had no idea this had happened. It happened early in the morning. So I get up, go to school, had no idea he was in the car accident, but it got put in the local paper. And now the kid is reading it. They laughing while I'm at school. So I go home, I'm mad, like, bro, what's going on? So what you do just doesn't affect you. So yeah, my feelings was hurt, because I'm getting teased and laughed at, but what you do just doesn't affect you. You can't say, I'm just having a drink at the bar. I'm just going out, but now you affected these other people, because imagine you get up trying to go to work and you see your car out here got side swiped and hit and totaled, so you can't drive it, right? And so things happen. So people need to realize, no, what you do, everybody has an influence. Nobody lives into themselves. Let's like what you said, you're a hermit living up in the mountains, but you're not affecting nobody's lives, in that sense. But yeah, so nobody lives into themselves.
Yeah, it's real. It's definitely real. And, the enemy will try to dissuade us to use that to really just say, hey, just go out and just enjoy, live your life, live your life, do you, because it doesn't matter. It's all about you. And yet there's a bigger picture that's telling us, no, it's not all about us. Yeah, God wants us to live. He has sent his son that we may enjoy life and life more abundantly. But a part of that abundant life that he's given is certainly being able to bring forth longevity and blessings unto others, because we can look at it and realize that, okay, we've all made decisions and choices and actions that if others follow is not going to be the best example. But by his grace, and we want to strive then that we can set forth an example that if others would be safe to be able to emulate and to follow, as the word says, to make straight paths, so those who come behind with lame feet may be able to safely walk over and to cross over. So certainly, as always, much more that we could discuss, but we're out of time. And so until we can come together again, remember the true proverb to keep your heart with all diligence, because out of it are the issues of life.